Is it true that we only use 10% of our brain? Have you ever come across stories or movies that show how a certain person uses only 10% of his brain? You then see how he becomes powerful as soon as he starts using all of his brain. This idea arose from the 10% myth that states people use only 10% of their whole brain. Famous psychologists William James and Boris Sidis in the 1980s explained how people only use a fraction of their full mental potential. Their theory started circulating among people, raising a misunderstanding about the concept. People started writing how William James suggested that the average man develops only 10% of his latent mental ability. Parts of the brain have functions that have been properly understood, but still some parts remain a mystery. This is why many myths regarding the brain exist. The 10% myth is also said to be a misunderstanding and misinterpretation of neurological research in the 19th and 20th century. If a person forgets some information, has a problem remembering some memory, or can't understand some difficult notes, it doesn't mean that they are only using 10% of their brain. They won't start remembering or understanding situations if they unlock some areas of their brain. The reason why this isn't possible is that it is a false myth and has been completely debunked because we use all parts of our brain. The only time when our brain parts don't function properly is when they go through some damage or are affected by diseases. Let's take a look at the reasons why the 10% myth is debunked. Brain imaging scans prove that no matter what, no region of the brain is useless or inactive. PET and fMRI show scientists how all parts of the brain are functioning, doing simple to complex all kinds of tasks. Either it is watching a movie, reading, or solving problems, our brain plays a part in all of our activities. Even during our sleep, walking, talking, and doing daily activities, all parts of our brain are always functioning. Researchers are still looking for a part of the brain that does not function at all. Our brain uses 20% of our energy. Only a small 10% of the brain using such a high amount of energy makes no sense at all. Let's consider the 10% theory true for a second. If a person goes through an accident and damages their brain, will he feel any kind of effects if 90% of his brain is already useless? No, he won't, because those regions weren't even working at all, which is not reality. Every region of the brain faces the consequences of brain damage in real life. Brain cells which are of no use start degenerating. Our brains would have a large amount of degeneration if 90% of the parts were unused. A tiny electrode is inserted into the brain to detect the functioning of every cell. This technique would have revealed 90% of no cell use, hence proving that the 10% myth is false. What are your thoughts about the 10% theory? Do you believe we only use 10% of our brain, or is it just a false myth? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Oh, and you can also tag your friends who don't use their brain at all.